Mark, good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm okay. But, a lot of people have been describing the year of January, the long
Yes,
January. But actually,
yes.
it seems it's okay because January's over. That's the good news. The bad news is
Okay,
it's February, okay?
right.
Because there is a lot of stuff, man. There's a lot of stuff going down, hey? But
Right.
the good news is about February is it's only 28 days long. And I'll tell you the special news about this February. You want to know, Tim? Ask me what the special news is.
What is the special news about this February, Mark?
This February has got 4 Mondays, 4 Tuesdays, 4 Wednesdays, four of every day. It's a fairly unique thing. It's got
Right.
28 days, and the days are spread evenly across the days of the week. And guess how often that happens, Tim?
I don't know how much that happens or how often that happens. Mark, could you tell me?
Every 823 years.
Right.
Now,
Excellent.
if that makes you feel better about the markets, what do you think of the markets, Tim? Eh?
Well, there was a big retraction of the gold market, and I'm just thinking now what I said last week. What did I say? Oh yes, I said, gold is looking a little
There we
toppish.
go. Yeah. Peakish. You called it peakish, as I remember. And I remember
Peakish.
wondering whether you were spelling that with a Q or not. Yeah.
So, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, was I like right or wrong about that? I mean, just loosely speaking.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were right, but it was kind of inevitable, Tim. To call the top of to call the top of the market, which has been more explosive than ever in history, is
Right.
hardly genius. Okay, my mate. Okay, so I mean, here's the enduring lesson, though.
Okay.
As I always say, never start drinking when everyone else is drunk. Stop buying into a screaming market.
Right.
Because here's what really happens. And these crashes have a strange good purpose about them, which is that the retail speculators get flushed out, but the
Right.
institutional investors dive in.
Right.
And I
Right. Right.
think
Right.
that's where we are. So people are going like, I missed out on this run. When it corrects, I'm going to make a long-term investment. And then the true counters will emerge. The longer-term
Right.
value plays now coming to focus because the spec plays have caused a bit of
Have
blood
departed.
noses here and there. That's what I think we're on.
Yeah. 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 No. 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 I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I don't know why I keep on going on about this, but the Bitcoin also got a big clap this week.
Everything.
Everything, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's kind of interesting because it's Bitcoin is not going up with gold, but it is going down with gold.
So, Tim, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love Bitcoin? Okay. And did you miss out on the last
Uh-huh.
5 years of extraordinary Bitcoin? Is this a little bit of sour grapes going on here, Tim? Please, because you are
And
so obviously against Bitcoin, it's almost palpable. Yeah,
no, no,
you
no. I'm in
don't
favor
like
of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
I'm very
They
no, no,
love
no.
Bitcoin.
No, no. I'm very in
It's
favor of
just
Bitcoin.
tough love.
Well, yes, tough love. That's what yeah. Everything is tough
Yeah,
love if you think about it.
yeah. I think love is tough. Yeah, let's not go there because then we are
Yeah,
not
yeah.
qualified to
First
talk.
of all,
Yeah,
let's start with
well,
that.
I'm not. Yeah,
No, no, no. I buy I just think it's a sort of such an interesting modern new kind of concept. Um, and
phenomenous. Yeah.
I like the idea of a currency that is supranational. You know what I mean? That is,
Mm,
but I don't own any Bitcoin. I had one Bitcoin. I've sold it. So this is not personal for me. The
mm.
and but it's just a sort of conceptual, sort of like intellectual kind of sort of weirdness, which I think is interesting.
Mm.
Have you
Well,
bought Bitcoin? Do you like
yeah,
Bitcoin?
I've never bought a full Bitcoin, but like you, I bought I bought a fraction of a Bitcoin just to kind of watch it, how it behaves and try and force myself into understanding it a bit. But my view is that these stable coins and Bitcoins and all of these new, currency alternatives to fiat,
Right,
there is going to be a survivor or survivors. It is the new world. It is going to be the new way we deal. I mean, let me take you to an example. So that the USA, I would argue, because of that wrecking ball that is Donald Trump,
right,
is putting its dollar as the reserve currency at risk. And guess who's sort of starting to make a claim? Is
Right.
Xi Jinping, I
Yes.
read, is looking to make the renminbi the reserve currency. And and if you stand back and you say, what are the characteristics of a reserve currency, including its stability and predictability and depth of liquidity and all that stuff, the renminbi is starting to stake a claim. And I think
Yes.
neither of them are going to win the battle. So long term, I think we are going to have a technology currency. We are going to have a kind of technology everything, including a technology dentist and include a technology heart surgeon and all that stuff. So
Right.
undercurrent, back of my mind, is a future for Bitcoin.
Okay, interesting. I mean, the thing that I like about Bitcoin, the other thing that apart from the fact that it's it's an alternative currency, is that it just worries me that so many governments around the world, including ours, are running these huge deficits. I mean, the
Oh,
American
Tim.
deficit is now running at 6%. You couldn't join the euro if you had a deficit of a fiscal deficit of over 3%. In other words,
Yeah.
you are now spending 3% more than you're getting in, right? Um, and
Well,
3% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's an enormous amount in government finances. We are talking billions and billions and billions.
yeah.
And all
Yeah.
governments around the world have just got into this sort of habit of running a six
Well,
percent fiscal deficit. It's just astounding to me.
Well,
What do you
it's
think?
compounded. It's compounded by how they're funding it, okay,
Right.
which is with debt. Okay,
Yes.
so they're borrowing to fund the deficit. If it was that that they weren't, that they were getting investments in their balance sheet to balance, but they're borrowing. Everyone's borrowing
Right.
from the richest countries in the world to the poorest. They're borrowing. Okay, and so there's a debt mountain which you can almost take down to an individual level in our country. No one pays on time anymore, okay,
Right.
because they can't. Okay, not because they don't
Yes.
want to. So, I mean, you look at the principal problem in amongst all of our infrastructure budgets, electricity budgets, water, all of that sort of stuff, is the fact that the revenue's dried up because people just aren't paying. And now, if you look into the municipalities, the councillors themselves are not paying as individuals, okay, because
Yes.
they can't. Okay,
Yes.
I heard Sean Phillips, Dr. Sean Phillips, who's the DG of Water, saying the other day that A, they can't interfere directly with what's happening in municipalities, but B, it's a 400 billion infrastructure problem. Now you
Yes.
take that and then you add water and then you add education and then you add healthcare and then you add and then you add and then you add. And if you start compounding the challenges we have and
Right.
double that worry by how we're going to fund them, you need control alternate delete. We need a rights issue in this country. We need FDI desperately. What do you think?
No, I mean, it's we've spoken about this a lot before. The
Yeah,
the sort of song remains the same,
yeah,
except that we are now at a this kind of strange situation where the you're talking about January and now February, but nobody seems to worry about this.
yeah. They are, Tim.
I
They
mean,
are
they
because
are
this
the people
never,
are
never.
worrying. You think so? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Carry on.
and
Sorry.
you take the gold boom. I mean, and the
Right.
minerals boom. No money's
Yes.
got back to the retail. The retail base is what I'm focusing on and worrying. Okay, because
Okay.
the population is bust. Okay, and the gold mine, whatever. No one's paid more dividends or distributed capital. Gold
Yes.
bugs can't help themselves. When the gold price goes up, they see another mine, not a
Right.
harvesting opportunity, but a planting opportunity, which is like a long term view on a
Yes.
short term spike. And
Yeah,
so
this is true.
there are some structural issues to deal with, Tim. And it's going to come down to who's going to lead us through this malaise, who's going to be the winners. And I want to ask this question: is there a better form of protest? Is there a better form stopping things going wrong than A, going out and protesting on the street, or B, waiting for the next election? Is there a technology where people can stop things going wrong? What do you, is there?
Well, I recently read the Constitution again, and it's a very
Oh,
interesting
just like
document, the
that.
Constitution. I know, yes.
You just read it
The
one Sunday morning. You thought, when I'm finished before the braai and after breakfast, I'll read the Constitution. Well done, Tim.
no, 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 no. I had to do it because of this book that I'm writing about, or that I've written. Um, it was a part of kind of history, and it's about the free marketeer Leon Lowe's contribution to
Yeah,
what was in the Constitution.
yeah.
And there were some things in it that are very interesting. And he makes the point, by the way. This is Leon Lowe, has a very unusual, direct. He's a fascinating person. You really need to go out and get my book. Did I mention that?
I've got
It's
your
called.
book, Tim, and I attended the launch. Hello. Have a nice day. Yeah. Okay. Plug accepted. Move on. Yeah.
But one of the things in the Constitution which has never been exercised is referenda. And I always wonder
Mm.
why we can't, sort of. California has referendums, frequently on a host of different topics,
Well,
and
I
I
think it's a
quite like
great
the
thing.
idea of that.
Yeah, me too.
So is that just a kind of different form of protest? What do you think?
Well, the trouble is that the incumbent has to call the referendum. And so,
Right.
if you called any referendum, no matter it's the source of the caller, you would find you're going to lose it somehow. I mean, because there's nothing working, man. There's just nothing working. And so, yeah, but, the other thing, yeah, so we've got it. Referendums. Let's have some referendums. Let's have 5
Yeah.
referendums on the biggest issues in South Africa and let that be. I think that's great. And it's in the Constitution. Let's do it. Let's do it. Because walking around in the street or complaining on TV, I mean, news. I watch news now at pain because
Yes.
we used to have this thing called police file. Do you remember, Tim?
Yes. 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 Yeah.
It was well, it's been replaced by the news. Okay. Because
Right.
the news is now just police file. Okay. That's what it
Yes.
is. I
Yes.
mean, there's
Yes.
nothing else to talk about. We talk about a bit of sport and then the cops. That's all we talk
Right.
about. I mean, it's too ridiculous. So
Yes.
let's do the referendum. I'm in for
That's it. Well,
that.
yeah, it's something. I mean, the other possibility that I thought was, you can opt out. You can yourself opt out. The
Explain, explain.
Well, for example, you often, I mean, you're not complimentary about the fact about the Karoo. I mean, I just make that as
I
a sort of
love the
general
Karoo.
statement.
Whenever
Okay.
I've got a spare weekend, I promise you this is true. I go to one of
Okay.
those pods in the Karoo or whatever, but
Right.
it's not to improve. It's not to expand my horizons. It's to
Okay.
reduce them. Okay.
No, this is true. But I live here in the Karoo, and what I do here on my little farm is I pump my own water.
Mm,
I generate my own electricity. I take my own rubbish to
mm.
the rubbish dump. I'm what they call in America a prepper. I'm preparing for the apocalypse. And I just want to
Okay,
say that
Tim.
I'm pretty ready for it now, and I'm pretty
You're
sure. I
independent.
feel like it's going to
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's what I
Yeah.
mean by
Well,
opting out. You can physically
yeah,
opt
well,
out.
why don't you wander down the streets of Soweto and go and say to them, go buy a farm in the Karoo, go buy a farm in the Karoo and see how many blocks you make with that. Because it's not universally available, that kind of solution. Okay.
No, of
I
course, of
tell you
course.
one of
But
the things, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I tell you one of the things I've started thinking about is where do we waste money? Okay.
Right,
And imagine if we had just, the nirvana, imagine if we had a pretty secure society. Safe,
right.
secure society with no crooks in it. Imagine that, okay?
Yes,
Um, do you know how much? I'd love to know how much the country spends on bodyguards and security and
yes,
burglar alarms and protection and all of that sort of thing. If we just took that budget and spent it on education and health, we'd have a transformation. Now, the trouble is
right.
the countries where you don't have to worry about security and so on are kind of not open democracies, right? They are kind of like
Right.
they've got their own set of boundaries and rules and things which I couldn't thrive in either.
Right.
Society is searching for solutions, Tim. I think with this 8 billion population has got some challenges ahead of it. I'm glad I'm old, man.
Um, just can I just quickly close off the point about opting out, because I'm
Yeah.
stung by your insinuation that I'm a privileged person,
No,
which
no,
is true.
no. Yeah,
But
yeah.
in a sense, Soweto residents have opted out of paying for electricity. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
also a choice. You know what I mean? It's not a great choice,
No,
but not a terrible choice from their perspective, from a kind of short-term point of view. Um,
yeah.
and a lot of people sort of opt out of the taking the rubbish out
Hmm.
possibility and sort of dumping it in the stream down
There
at
are
the bottom of the.
consequences. The trouble is, there
Of
are
course, yeah,
consequences. So
yes, yes,
you
yes.
opt out of paying for electricity, which everyone has. You opt out. You opt out of obeying the law. Yeah, the other day, I
Right.
was heading through Santon City, which is a kind of fairly upmarket place,
Right.
at about 7:15. So it was sort of rush hourish. Okay,
Right.
and it came upon me to stop at a red robot.
Oh
I nearly
no.
took my life in my own hands. I know, how childish. So there I was, stopped at a red robot, and the cars were
Yes.
passing me left, right, and center. It was like a free for all. It could have been a traffic circle for that matter. Okay.
Yes.
And there were two or three guys damming up behind me because I had a red robot in front of me. And they started
Right.
hooting and shouting at me. Hey, what are you doing here? I was like, don't you understand the new rules? The rules are everyone for himself, go when there's a gap. Now,
Right.
I go into a parking lot at a high market end, shopping center, and the demarcated bays for parking are practically irrelevant. You pull
Right.
in, and when you feel like stopping, you stop. It doesn't matter how many bays you took or how many yellow lines. We are becoming a deeply lawless society. Now, I'm not saying we should be China, because I read in
Right.
China that they executed another 4 mafia members. Okay,
Right.
but it kind of helps, to get everyone in line. Okay, I'm not saying that we should go there. I don't want to go there. Um,
Yes.
but we totally, if we do take the
No,
law
no.
into our own hands, we don't pay. We end up with anarchy, which is who prevails in anarchy?
Right. Well, I
That's the
wonder.
question. Who
I mean,
does?
maybe it's. I mean, the obviously in anarchy, the driver who ignores the most robots wins.
Mm,
Because, as you know, robots in
yeah,
South Africa are a suggestion. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They're not an
yeah,
instruction. Right.
yeah,
They're,
yeah,
they're sort of like,
they're just,
I think, my personal point of view is that you should stop.
yeah,
But
yeah.
please don't let that affect your
Well,
position. You make your own decision on this important matter. Yeah.
Well, we could take these all away. The real question is, what's the replacement system? So if you say every man for themselves, and then what will happen is that the strongest will prevail, okay, and the weakest we'll go back to we're really getting back here into basic human behavior. And if it
Right.
is, which it might already halfway be, that the crooks
Right.
are in charge,
Right.
then you either have to become a crook or kill a crook.
Right.
Those are the choices.
No, no. I mean, it is, it's enduring. It sort of almost goes without saying. This is a kind of enduring problem in South Africa, because one of the things actually it came up in my book, but it is interesting how township life in South Africa, is almost lawless, and you just cross the road. And you go to a place where laws are enforced, and more or less, and
Yeah,
people pay
well,
rates,
no,
and
no,
there are
no.
town plans and stuff like that. And the one interesting example is that the government, South African government, who should be most acutely aware of exactly what happens in townships in South Africa, they've just passed a law that you're not allowed to smoke 10 meters from
Yeah.
an entrance.
Yeah, we mentioned that last week. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And
Yeah,
how do
yeah,
you
yeah.
do that? I mean, there's typically houses in South African townships are not 10 meters apart. You mean it's basically an
Yeah,
injunction to not smoke at all, which no one's
yeah.
ever going to listen to, and no one's ever going to enforce. So, if you keep
No,
passing laws that you know that people won't, adhere
well,
to, then you're just asking for an increased level of lawlessness, and an increased level of anarchy, right?
here's the problem that compounds it, is that the legal system is frozen in the headlights, it seems to me. Okay.
Yes.
It seems to me that no matter what you're accused of, the legal system permits justice deferred is justice denied. It's almost the undercurrent. The expected outcome is postponement. Okay. And so
Yes.
whether there's a commission or an inquiry or an accusation or a bail application, whatever, it seems to me that if you get accused of something now and you within 10 years of your demise, you're going to be just fine. Okay. Because there's no
Yes,
chance of
yes,
getting into
yes.
jail before then. Okay. And so we have a political system which it seems to me is in partnership with some of this functional illegality. It
Right,
prevails over a legal system which permits it
right.
in inverted commas. And so
Yes.
there's massive change which has to take place for that tide to change. And I have to say this as well. These Sowetos and Anglo, they're functional economies, but
Yeah,
they just don't abide by a set of rules, the set of rules that we choose to abide by. So I'm saying, actually, we've got to rewrite the rules. We've got to move
right.
on into what are the rules that would function in the
Yeah,
society that we are. Okay. And
yes.
so inheriting all this Roman Dutch law, and I'm speaking out of about my pay grade here, but inheriting all stuff that applied in a certain ecosystem in a certain time, that's rubbish. Okay. What we've
Yeah.
got to do is go, look, what laws enable coexistence in our very complex ecosystem?
Yeah. I mean, I do really like the idea of going through the statute book of South Africa and uh,
Yes.
and asking the question: do we actually need this law? So that you
Yeah,
have a negative
100%.
approach to lawmaking
Yeah.
rather than a positive approach. So, in other words, instead of
Clear
trying
out
to
the
fix the
cupboard.
problem by adding a law, you could fix a problem
Yeah,
by subtracting a law. You know what I mean? If you looked hard enough,
100%.
no one does
Yeah,
that. Uh, um, and uh,
yeah.
and oddly enough, you would expect the opposition parties to be really at the forefront of this process, um, but
What
but
what
they just
opposition
not.
party, Tim? Sorry, do you know of an opposition party?
Oh yeah, no, everybody's in the same club now.
Yeah.
I know. It's really hot. But it's the beginning of the year, and we have a whole new February to look forward to, and it's a
Eh,
symmetrical February with
yeah.
the same number of each day in the month, which is
Yeah.
just great, and it makes me
It's
feel a lot
fabulous.
better.
Yeah. Yeah, thank goodness for that. All right,
Yeah.
it's February. It's also Valentine's Day coming. Come on, cheer up, get a bit of love and stuff, and let's rewrite the
Yes.
book that enables our peaceful coexistence.
Cool.
Have a nice
Very
weekend.
nice thought. Cheers. Cheers. See you next week.